Hi, 72-Day Star, out in a walk-in vlog. I had a lengthy exchange with a atheist on Facebook. He tried to make the contention that there was some qualitative difference between... I've made the assertion before that there's really no qualitative difference in the argument in support of elves, faeries, and such, and an argument for the existence of God, especially when you use it in the manner of an appeal to ignorance. That is, I don't know what caused the milk to prematurely curdle, therefore faeries, or I don't know how photosynthesis evolved, therefore God. So, to me, it's just a matter of scale or where you're making that claim, but they're essentially the same kind of claim. And if you were a person who grew up in, say, a culture like rurals of Scotland or Ireland about 100 years ago, and someone made an appeal to fairies, it wouldn't have seemed so ridiculous. And yet, in the modern age, we still have people who make appeals to Yahweh, or this is the one where I got the pushback, and I was looking for pushback, so it was great. So I get a little pushback on this. He says, well, there's this philosophical concept of God, and that separates it qualitatively from things like fairies. Okay, granted. The ontological argument, for example, of Anselm, was of a rationalist argument to support the existence of God. It's largely considered to have failed, and most people gave up on it, but Alvin Plantinga has sort of resurrected it in a modal form. And it's a very, very eloquent argument. And the atheist says, well, these atheist philosophers seem to take this seriously. And I would suggest that it's not that they're taking the idea of God seriously. It's that they're taking seriously the fact that these are well thought out and complicated arguments. And the arguments to refute them do take some work. I think that's what they're taking seriously, rather than the idea of God. But I would like any feedback on that. If you have any argument that would suggest that there's a qualitative difference between God and, say, a claim to elves. Now, I'm going to go a little farther. I have been giving it some thought, and I think it's just our cultural background. Oh, by the way, on the ontological, one of the refutations was that we can use the argument that imagine there's something of which nothing else could be greater, yada, yada, yada. It can be applied to anything. Imagine an island that's the best of all possible islands. Therefore, it must exist, to make a long story short. But on the other matter, I would say it is less likely that God exists than elves. Because elves, at least they're humanoid. We know humanoid-type creatures can exist. Disembodied minds, we have no empirical evidence to support that. They have intelligences and personalities similar to humans. That seems more plausible. Also, the fact that they seem a little bit silly and a little bit weird, I would suggest is actually more congruent with the idea that they might actually exist. Where you see something that has been trimmed of all of its cultural liabilities that might make it look silly, I would suggest that it's more likely that that is a byproduct of a pruning process that is more likely to suggest that someone's making shit up. Anyways, share your thoughts below. 72-Day Star out.